bit of questions on the comments regarding how I was able to make negotiations and get the final pricing that I got on this car. We all face it, you know, cars like this, especially here in Southern California, you walk into any dealership, most GT350s are gonna have about $15,000 markup. Ours, they're gonna have about $25,000 markup or more. I've seen up to $35,000. I've seen some of the R's selling at over $100,000 with the markup, which is, I laughed at them. So for those of you who want to know how to negotiate your way into hopefully getting a decent deal out of these type of cars, I'll tell you what I did. The very first thing I did was, obviously I have to know what I want, right? Do I want just any GT350s? Do I want it in certain color? Do I want it with certain options? For me, I didn't want the stripes. I wanted it in avalanche gray, and I wanted a track package. So when you boil that down, what you can do is you can go to Ford website and you can go through their inventory lists that it shows up. And again, being GT350, there weren't a whole lot of dealerships with the specific options that I wanted. Now, out of the ones that I found, I believe there are only maybe two or three of them that I found. Pretty much I kind of stalked on those cars for about 3 to 4 months. Reason? Well, generally speaking, if the car is sitting there for more than 6 months, dealerships really start to want to get those out of there. One, you know, it costs them money to keep it there and maintain the car, and two, again, they're gonna get hit with depreciation once the whole year rolls over. It doesn't matter if cars, you know, specialized cars like these. Anyways, out of those 3 dealerships, or 2 or 3 that I found, one popped up at me and looked like they had this car for a little while. And again, I kind of stalked on it, and to my knowledge, it was sitting in their room, the showroom floor, for about 7 or 8 months. I decided to pay a visit to a dealership. Now, before I paid a visit to a dealership, I knew that I was ready to purchase the car. Now, that is the key. If you're the guy that you're just, wow, this car's cool, I want to go in there, check it out, I'm not sure if I'm gonna get it or not, you know, that kind of vibe, you're not gonna get any deals on these cars. You have to be able to walk in, and if everything falls to your liking, the numbers are right, you should be able to buy the car right there and then and walk out of the dealership with the keys in your hand. Unless you are at that point in your life, you know, there's no point. You know, there's no point of, oh, going in there, hey, if you give me this much discount, I'll think about it. You know, I mean, that doesn't fly. I mean, these guys been working, they deal with these type of situations day and night out. They're tired of it. You know, they want guys that are real and are ready. So I got my finances, I figured it out, how I was gonna pay for it, how much down payment I was gonna do. That was all figured out, meaning I was ready to sign the deal, and I went to a dealership. Now, before I went to a dealership, I looked at their website, and again, you can see who the sales managers are and general manager is, and so I wrote down some of their names so I know who to talk to. Don't go to a dealership, any of those guys that sit around on the outside just walking around and then catch you as soon as you arrive, you know, when you walk in and the guys come up to you and say, can I help you? Those guys are just regular showroom floor sales. Okay, if you go through them, one thing is it's going to take a lot longer for you to make the deal, because they have to talk to their managers, and sometimes their managers have to talk to general manager to see if the deal is even possible. So, and then, you know, they just don't have a lot of power to make that kind of big negotiations. So there's absolutely no point for you to talk to them. So what I did was I showed up. When the guy came up to me and said, "Hey, can I help you?" I told him, "Hey, I know you guys have that GT350 on the showroom. I'm interested in purchasing it, and I'd like to speak to so and so." Now, something I also did before I walked into the dealership, and you should do this too, is to do a ton of research on forums and anything like AutoTrader, eBay, Cars.com, all those websites. Forums generally, for me, helps the most, because these are the guys who actually bought the car, and you can ask them, and they'll, you know, they usually tell you how much they pay for it and whatnot. You know, YouTube videos, reviews, I looked through tons of them that talk about, you know, how much these guys pay for their GT350s. And you also have to realize, depending on where you live, you know, the amount of negotiations you can do may change. Generally speaking, in areas where there's larger volume dealerships, you know, it may be a bit easier for you to do easier negotiations. I found out from looking around, and at that point in time, there are guys buying it for 5,000, 7,000 over. There are a couple guys who got it for 3,000 over, and that seemed like a pretty good deal. I mean, there's always one curveball or one oddballs in there that, you know, they tell you, "Hey, I paid MSRP," or, you know, things like that. But I mean, for those guys, it's either they've bought 4 or 5 cars from that same dealership, they know the general manager, or, you know, is their friend or family friend or whatnot. You know, unless that's the case, you know, those are kind of you know, unreachable type of deal at the point. So you have to be realistic. So in my mind, I was pretty set on trying to get to that 3,000 over, and that's it. No more, no less. So you should know your target, instead of trying to have them come up with the number for you and then give them your number and have them give them their number again, back and forth. You know, you just gotta know pretty much what a reasonable cost is and stay firm with it, so that way you don't have to waste time. I mean, if I was buying some daily commuter car, I wouldn't even be spending time to talk to the manager. Usually I'll just email them or leave them a little note with my card, my number on it, and say, "Hey, this is the price I want. This is the monthly payment I want on my lease, and how much I'm willing to put down." And usually is, you know, and let me know, give me a call if you guys can make it happen. I just leave them the card and leave, because I hate playing back and forth games with the sales and their managers, whatnot. But anyway, so I walked in knowing what I wanted, how much I was willing to pay, and also, again, I was ready to pay for it. And when I walked in, again, I met with the sales manager, and pretty much the very first thing I told him is, "Hey, you know, I wanna buy this car off of you today if I can, but the ADM on it right now is something I can't do. You know, I'm willing to go down to this much." So the car had, on my dealership, it had 15,000 over. So I told him, "I'll do 3,000 over, and if you can match that deal, I'll take it right now. But that's it, you know, that's my firm price. Just let me know. I don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste my time. If it's something you guys have to think about, whatnot, I'll leave you with my contact info and give me a call." When I said it that way, the guy pretty much said, "Hey, you know what? I like it. You know, I don't like bullshitting. Let me make a call and let me find out, man." That's exactly what he said. Very close to it. And I knew he was gonna call general manager and see if it's just gonna be okay to do so. So I mean, when he said that, in my mind, I kind of had an idea. Yeah, this is probably gonna work out. But again, so he pulls out his cell phone, he calls the general manager. Takes him about, I don't know, 15 minutes, 10-15 minutes. Comes back and he says, well, let's make the deal. So when he said that, I told him, perfect, that's fine, but I want you to know I'm paying $3,000 over MSRP already. I don't want any hidden fees. I don't want any other additions that are going to be placed on top of $3,000 over MSRP. And I told him, I buy cars, I sold cars quite often, and I just don't like wasting money and time and those type of things. So I kind of gave him that kind of vibe. And he knows, those guys know, but at the same time, they have to kind of discuss with you at least, because it's their policy. Pretty much, if boss tells you to try to add all these things on to make additional profit, as you have to do it, right? But I mean, I pretty much told him I'm not interested in any of it. So the car actually already had stupid stuff on it, things like security system, the door ding guards, some interior protection package, some bullshit like that. I mean, and it was all couple hundred something dollars here and there. And at first he told me, hey, you know what, it's already on the car. I'm not sure if we can do anything about it. He started giving me all these excuses, and I told him, you know what, I don't want any of it. If you need to take off the alarm system, take it away. Just deactivate it. I don't care what you have to do. But again, it's my farm price. Like I said, if you can't make it work, I'm walking out. And again, that's another thing. You want to get a good deal on it, always be ready to walk out of the dealership. You don't need the car. You have to realize that when you start to get close to purchasing the car, you start to get into this cycle where, oh my gosh, I really want this car, I have to buy it. What, $1,000 extra, what's that gonna do, right? It's only gonna increase my payments by this much. Let's just make everybody happy. I want to get it and get out of here type of mentality. You cannot do that. Remember, they want to sell this car just as bad as you want to buy it. As soon as you start giving in one or two things, now the ball's on their court. You have to be able to tell them, hey, you know what, this is as far as I can go. That's it. You're not willing to negotiate. That's always, again, you always want to have that power to terminate the negotiation, and you don't lose out on anything. They lose out on potential sale, right? So you're always going to be the winner in this case. So again, that's what I told him, hey, take it all off. I don't want any of it. I don't want any other costs. Well, guess what he did? Same thing. All right, let me make a call. And again, mind you, this guy was already a sales manager position. So he was already almost like a middleman. Imagine what I had to go through if it was just regular sales. Anyway, so he calls the general manager again, quick talk here and there, and he comes back and says, you know what, all right, we'll just deactivate the alarm system. The things that are already on there, it's on there, but we're not going to charge you any extra for it. And again, $3,000 over MSRP, that's it. And I told him, all right, I have your word, $3,000 over, no more, no less, that's it. So again, it was as easy as that. If you're gonna finance, make sure you get your own financing ready instead of trying to go through the dealership. It always helps. A lot of times what I do is I'll look up, you can usually get the pre-approval done online real quick these days, Bank of America or a couple banks. And usually they're gonna give you, if you have a good credit, I don't know, 1.9%, 2%, or depending on how many months. What I do is I print it out, the approval letter, before I use my financing, I go up to them and say, hey, you know what, this is what I've been approved. If you guys can beat the interest rate, I'm all ears. And a lot of times they rather have you finance through their own bank, because they get incentives from it as well. So a lot of times they'll beat your interest rate even though your current interest rate is already good. A lot of times they'll either match it or they'll beat it. So, you know, but if you go in there and just say, yeah, I need to do financing, then they're gonna try to nickel and dime you with the interest rate. So make sure you have that ready as well. So yeah, I mean, that's what happened. Went in there, made a deal, put down some money and finance the rest, and I was able to walk out with the car.